Hello. Today I would like to share my thoughts on the Tenere 700 after owning it for 1 year, and we're going to check to see after owning it for 1 year and 10,900 miles. Alright, so the first thing I would like to talk about is fuel mileage. One of the interesting things with the Tenere 700, it has the 4.1 gallon gas tank, but the first bar on the gas indicator doesn't go down until around 60 to 70 miles. After that, the gas bars seem to go down quite fast, and I know one of the main complaints is the 4.1 gallon fuel tank, and then the reserve light comes on at 1.1 gallons, which can get you a little freaked out because that's really around 150 miles or even sometimes like 130 miles. But what I've found is on average I get 55 miles per gallon when riding conservatively, but also getting on the gas at fun points. And so when the gas light comes on at 1.1 miles, you can easily get another 50 miles, putting you at around 200 miles of range easily. I never worry about filling up until I get to that 200 miles. Next, I would like to talk about the welded subframe. I don't think it's a problem. I did have a pretty good crash that bent my crash bars, as you can see here. And I'll show you my side case as well. It bent that, but didn't cause any problems to the subframe. I feel like if you were to bend that, you would have had to have a really bad crash. In that crash, my handguard was also scuffed up, and I don't see a problem with the plastic handguards. I think they're kind of flexible actually, so when you hit them off things, they don't deform and then stay deformed. I have aluminum crash guards on my WR250R, and those work well. They protect the levers, but when you have a good crash, they'll actually bend out of place and sometimes be pushing up on the lever, and you'll have to bend them back into place. Next is the LCD screen here. I would say take it easy on the screen. I did scratch mine, but then I was watching a Moto Bob video and he recommended screen angels. So it's just a screen protector that's put on the screen here. And ever since I put that on there, it's kind of cleared up the scratches, like filled in the gaps, and of course it's providing some protection in the future to the screen. Going back to the crash bars, these are the Yamaha crash bars. My bike came with them, and it came with the center stand. I wouldn't say I would recommend these crash bars. After that crash, they bent in, and they bent this lower connecting bar. And ever since then, I had to pull them out first so they wouldn't be pushing on the fairing. And anytime I crash now, they get pushed into the fairing and I have to pull them back out. So honestly, I just can't recommend the Yamaha crash bars. To go along with the plastic handguards, a lot of people recommend replacing the skid plate because it is pretty thin. But once again, I don't think you need to replace it. It works well. It'll stop any rocks from getting and hitting your oil filter there. protects your exhaust. And once you dent it up enough, then I would say replace it. Don't just run out and replace it right off the bat. One thing I did add are these Acerbis X frame grippers slash frame protectors. I got them more to protect the frame from my boots rubbing against them. On my WR, I rubbed all the paint off of the side of my frame. Thankfully it's silver, so it doesn't matter too much or doesn't look too bad. But I would recommend them, and they look pretty nice because they cover up the silver part there. It makes it all kind of black and go along together. Another thing is the rear brake. It definitely is mushy, for sure. When I crashed, I also bent the brake lever back and it was actually touching the foot peg there. I bent it back into place, but as you can see, it's not perfectly flat. One thing I did find after a while of riding is adjusting the rear brake. Using your bolts back here, I moved the rear brake up, which then allowed it to engage when it's more in line with the foot peg, and that gave me better control of the rear brake. Next, I would like to talk about the wind protection. It does block a good amount of the wind coming to your chest and hitting your chin as well. I'm 6 foot 2 inches tall, and that's just what I get from riding it. I do have quite a bit of wind hitting my shoulders when I ride. I don't mind it. Yeah, I just don't mind it. That's all I have to say about it. And then the screen is also kind of noisy, but at this time I do ride with earplugs. Started doing that about a year ago, kind of right before I got this bike. And when wearing earplugs, you definitely can't hear the wind and all that. It's a nice ride with earplugs. Talking about accessories on my bike, I did add those Acerbis X frame protectors and the Screen Angels screen protector. The only other thing I added was the Oxford heated grips. I ran those all winter this year. I love them. Them with my winter gloves, I was able to commute down to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's all up to your tolerance, but bundled up everywhere else and nothing else on my hands than my winter grip, my winter gloves, and the Oxford heated grips. Moving on to the suspension, and in particular the rear suspension. The front fork does well for me. I haven't really had any complaints there. It has good hold up, as you would say. I don't bottom it out when I hit small jumps, really like water bars and things like that. When you're on certain trails, you can get a little air off of those, and the front fork performed well over those. But like everybody says, the spring on the rear shock is pretty soft, and like everybody also says, they did that because this bike has a good amount of anti-squat in the suspension design. You can feel that anti-squat when you go over acceleration bumps. You can feel the engine kind of hanging up. I like to think it's kind of what the KTM guys were going through when they switched to the, I believe it's the 2022 bike that was fully redesigned, and when they were hitting the whoops and stuff, they couldn't carry good momentum over the whoops, and it seemed like the bike was just hanging up. And that's what I get from the suspension design. It does work well on the road, providing good anti-squat, so it's pushing the tire into the pavement, which provides good traction. Now, this is something other than the actual bike that Yamaha makes, but my Pirelli tires, these are the original tires after 10,900 miles, and you can see the wear bars, it's definitely, I have the new tire and I'm getting ready to replace them, but you can see they lasted me a whole 10,000 miles really, which I consider to be really good. Yeah. And then here's a look at the front Pirelli Rally Scorpion STR tire, I think it is. After 10,000 miles, yes, Scorpion Rally STR tire. I'm really happy with how long they lasted. Next up is the chain slack. Because my bike came with the center stand and I'm kind of used to checking the chain slack while the bike is upright, I set the chain slack to the recommended 1.6 to 1.9 inches while on the center stand, but that is too tight when you actually put it down on the wheels. So make sure that you're checking this chain slack as recommended when the bike is on the side stand. One thing that I did have wear out pretty quick is the rear brake pads. As you can see, my rotor is a little discolored. One time I was riding and I noticed I had my foot on the rear brake pedal dragging the rear brakes, and that overheated the rear rotor, and that's why it's discolored. So that was all my fault. But my first set of brake pads on this bike lasted me 6,000 miles. So this is what my second set looked like at 10,000 miles. Like I had talked about, I had a pretty good crash and I bent my right side case up. As you can see, it doesn't sit flat anymore, and it has a dent in the side case. It does still work and attach to the mount and stay attached to the mount. So I'll put these on, let you guys see what that's like. So my bike did not come with the rack or side cases. I bought mine from Partzilla. The cases are easy to take off. You pull this tab here and it releases the case. I did not buy the keys because I just haven't felt the need to spend the extra money, and I also don't leave the bike anywhere to where I think I need to lock the cases. Opening the case, I keep a bag in here so that way I can easily fill it up and take it out when I get to destinations. These cases fit a ton of stuff. I love having cases now from my WR that had no storage. I can make grocery runs on my commute days, and when I travel longer distances, I can carry along different things that I may need. And then from the top here, these indicators show green when the case is fully engaged. As you can see, because this case got a little bent up, these indicators don't work 100% correctly, but I'll show you the other case. So looking at the left side case, you can see the indicators clearly show green there. And then I'll try to do this one-handed with this case. You pull the tab and the case comes off. My final thoughts on my Yamaha Tenere 700 after 1 year and 10,900 miles. It's a very nice bike to ride, easy to ride, and it's also very reliable. That's why I chose the Yamaha. A lot of people talk about its off-road capabilities, and I have ridden it off-road for about 200 of all those miles um, at the Wild Bill Memorial Dual Sport and at a Dual Sport meetup one weekend in the Michaud Forest in Pennsylvania. I mainly use my Yamaha Tenere 700 for commuting to work, honestly. It's a great commuter with the side cases. I can pick up groceries and do errands very easily. It's always reliable, and it just makes a good street bike. I feel like it's fun. It's not the fastest bike ever, but easily does 100 miles per hour, which is definitely breaking the law. So those are all my thoughts on my Yamaha Tenere 700 after 1 year of ownership and 10,900 miles. If you like to ask me any questions, please leave a comment down in the comment section. And if you wish to see more videos, please subscribe. And thank you for watching.